Yeah.
Oye, Carchis. Tem Carchi.
Mindu. Kumi mindu. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Carchis.
Sorry.
Lasso, yeah.
Can you guys? Yes.
Onde será?
Chama sogar.
Dedo bicho. Carri. Te peti zerle son carri, tande. Carchindi.
Ah,
Te zurle pajachi, te trivanda tauna, so taki china. Niesa marita te.
ja, das ist
Lasso.
Chima,
Yeah, lasso. Tanga tsungo nzijarwa, samdje.
Hello, everybody. Let's start.
Ani atso dan zindra dendro ni parche ki da samba ni shna jingo da ni samma zamba chi ro sare.
This class has been, come, yeah. As you know, Geshe has been teaching,
Shuta. What is dile peta.
please have a seat. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, as you know, Geshe has been teaching the book Science and Philosophy in Indian Buddhist Classics. It's a and the teaching have been started in I have started in March, and almost 3 months have passed already.
Tanda dawa chi zundu ti na nga tsundi ligu go pata tsanan ri ko ri ti so tandandu zindra chuka ching na tanda yorwa.
1 month. Now it's all sort of like 1 month left for the remaining part of the text that Geshe was supposed to teach.
Sonza nga tso lo che chokundu jima di kore jon jja chi ni manga ma pasona ti so yona yon chi tsa korta longo korta tile korta tso lo ni chi musigen zindra chi ti so rauna chi che ya.
And if there's some time left at the end, Geshe would like to speak more about these channels and winds in the body.
Ani tanda dawa ti so na lo cho trawa ta so chatanji chi on di pe ja ya pon cho yo min yo nyen je sha ten son sa pe ka po chon su cho so sama sar ke jani chanya ro sar ke jan ka lo tanji ya po jan cho ya pe ka po chon
Because Tibetan
ko so trawa so ta on di ya po ha ko ndo ma to trawa te ta to mare.
And some of you might be new to Buddhism, but it's good that, from your side there came a lot of questions. So happy to receive these questions. That shows you're doing well.
Ani te chi je go sa so ta ngaron ro chi na ge chi je ge yo mara. Nga so ta so na le kyamba le lo chonga lo kyong chi ni gi to lo re gi to chembo re ro chonga te sha ani ge li ke go gi to te lo chu ti ji ma nga lo sam tai dombi lo ni sabje yar ma chi gi to chi ni ro at ri ji yen lo kyong.
So yes, I was sharing about his own, studies when he was down in the monastery in Jepong. So he studied,
Parche lo ta so na lo chonga ge li gi to lo chu nga lo sum.
So he studied in his, department, as it were, his house in Jepong Monastery for 15 years at first, and then he went on to teach. To study on, then he went for his Geshe Lharampa degree, which was another, advanced studies deeper studies for another 6 years, and then 3 years of Tantra, all in all, 20 plus years.
Sonza tengi shi shugo ya kari ya samna tan choso kati na ngin zindra le de gore ta tan de chi shi chen ra o kanji na chi ha ko go yo na tenji sam segre sonza te choso to pan chi mu ngal nyam le shu yo zina khambare ta shi se ya po yo nge shi ya ta ya cha gyan ri yo re zina sikungla to ma ya cha gup chen nam ta yo ma rin ri gre ya cha gup chu tan ri gre te pe nan di daram sa ya gyul tenji chini na chu mo chu chini khan de yo re tan ran ra wo yin jere ma to chi Shiraji, Ngemasha Kososhindo, Gombondo, Injury Samte, and I'll Dinson Rawachio.
Yes, so Mangshi Apo, and Mixi Hachang, Mishabaranya, Dandaboration.
And Kosol Durguananga Duachi or Mari. Tilai.
So this is to say that, I can say with some confidence that I have, a certain basis, because I've studied so many years. and that, I mean, the whole Dharamsala is full of other teachers who teach, like introduction to Buddhism, but I'm not worse than all of them.
Deshe go ta song sa kyoso ni chik chenjalo kyangja she de go ta ni samago. Tesengal din so yo kyor so ti sha ta so ya po jang da ni sha ta so shra non chuk me ya ta ni ge ki to gri.
And yeah, I can also confidently say that, I have quite a good understanding, so I wouldn't say anything that's wrong.
Last, what the rich yeah, touch can in a sam girl watching you top as shin ding the chenchalo she de you as out any miss or some cigarette and it top amago. Yin top a she de yoro, that she had the chenchalondo with young she de yona, some sugar, nor de yonas. That should write top a chico mariata chiona.
Well, you don't have to think that, I'm making things up or, this wrong things that I'm teaching you.
Tamushi, Tasana, Jicto associated Antombo Nipasamba, Mombolin, Jicto Chin in Joyatanji Mato, Yamuku Washimas, Andro, Nipendisa, and Lord John Chevical.
Antambuni Pasumba.
Mombolin, Eligitole, Shapanga Patanjan. Momboli, think about
And when I graduated, or when I did all these exams during my studies in the monastery, I usually ended up being, among the first, 3 or 4 or 5. I mean, wouldn't be in the last lot.
Yet, so she going at the push of Marta, because of somebody teaching in the Ratinian shot, so Janton and in
but it's not I'm not saying all these things to show off, just to let you know that have some background knowledge.
Last not so Tenimanjo, Tatering not so lobs and Chapo and the Chili Kisonre, Tanda Katsakin also Tom Yetamba Shere, Satamba Chatamba Metamba Lontamba Janat, Panchepata, near to Tamba, Wasser Part, Jeti, Tom Geshe Vinoni. Atel Trunit and the Cato Yachas Sheung, Reteran to Paris.
So, what we touched on in the past classes, in last few classes, was about these different stages of dissolution. That's the Shikalamora.
Shikala Kirtani Kartojas Shiorita, Shikalamo in a Yavlin Kabin and Ramadan.
Okay, so yeah, it can be, can refer to the, that process, but it's also, in general, when the mind goes to these more subtle stages, and there are these stages of dissolution, where initially the earth element dissolves into the water element, and then the water into the fire element, the fire into the wind element. And then there's the 5th stage of dissolution, where there are so-called 80 conceptions appearing. And that's what we are at the text here. And this is, again, I have just the e-version. But that's in the e-book, it's page 256. And the topic or the headline is the 80 conceptions indicative of the minds of the 3 luminosities.
Katoja Shigo, Sawandra, what the Karisita, also Mugi Tomrabjakana, Nawaziachi, and Chepazias, Niertopsia, some she only, the Solon Sunchetela, Nawan Sochel, Katosum Chosum, Chepan Sochel, Katojucha, Niertum Sochel, Kanto Denti, Kantojach Tambasombari.
Die kunto getju tunzane deni nangwe nawa chepa netop
Nawan
And so after these 80 conceptions kind of arise at this point of dissolution, after that there are these different appearances in the mind stream of the person. First is the luminous appearance, and then luminous radiance, and then luminous immanence. And then there's a connection between these 80 conceptions. There's a group of 3 indicating or indicative of these minds of the 3 luminosities that refers to this luminous appearance. There are 33 of these 80 conceptions indicating this luminous appearance, and then 40 of the 80 conceptions indicating the luminous radiance, and then 7 indicating the luminous immanence.
So that Kato Jachet Sheguat, Pena Tombo Simchos awesome to the no one Sunre Lagoon, Sunton the Carres, Penaso, zigla kanda ocha pesha na yana de je ka yori de yuki chapa bio sa combat je den combat le on di chatel tini je den combat ka yo ha konjure te na je tanda ka tosam che sosam de ngon je wale tini muki na ta ha kongo rogre zini sonse te shi yori.
And it's by kind of by knowing these certain 80 groups of these 80 conceptions. By knowing them, we can understand these different appearances. And to give an example for that is like when we so if someone asks where is the temple of His Holiness, and then someone else points it out, it's over there where the bird has landed on the roof. That's the temple of His Holiness. And likewise, so the bird kind of yeah. So in that example, the bird is illustrating these 80 conceptions, which by means of which we can understand then these appearances here in this example, the temple of His Holiness. For a link to the ebook, yes, there's. I can't. It's available online. I can send it around later on, or I can share it in the group. The ebook. I can do that. That's
so. The ena that in Sonam to pick up what you read, and the mason said the cars on is it in Gombo Lejup, Jamgaziat in Anomason Yondu.
Yeah, so it's quite difficult. This part of the text, but there is a quote here by Nagarjuna, and he has composed a text called 5 Stages, and there's something explained in here.
The tombo nawas Kartos Gachag some awesome that no one so cherry. That's all Nyam they give you loan the tears, a Japan or your pichanita, Mugi now at the Takonin Japon or your resinite de yore. Ina Tangaso Nyam Konichina, or loan that Shipani Nyam than drug and Yam than as Masons and so long so I had to pay Kalekapundu.
So it speaks about the fact that mind always goes, or consciousness goes together with certain wind. It says here it's the wind is the mount of the consciousness. But as we ourselves have not really any experience really of these things, you know, how the winds work, it's rather difficult to understand. Ani di Lhamo kasa sum dis rakpa yore nama.
Some awesome the long that's a rakpa now at the so long the Japan
but on the whole, one can say that these 33 conceptions that indicate the luminous appearance, that they are more coarser concepts, and likewise the wind that moves these consciousnesses, or this consciousness, is also more coarse, and then it gets more subtle.
You know, I got to get the Kawayo is in a Tandangaroso Gilliori, Tingun, Katojachi Korongons and Lila Wori, Kokani me by Chandro Resina, Mangaso Shendro Yukas, Satchelat of Chemela to Mev Lonlato, Long Naval at Tamdro Yukas, Katojachin Garni, Tingasu Yomari, Katojachan in many Naval, the Partangas of Katojachi that lived the order now on time and that you would tadi Walman now taught us Motrochi Ongori, Tijil Motrochi.
Yeah, so now it's coming up now in the text. It will be more deeply or more detailed explained what these 80 conceptions are all about. But basically, we all have them right now with us too. They're always with us. Also, when these dissolutions start operating or start happening, when the earth element dissolves in the water into the water element, and then the water into the fire into the wind element. Up to then the next stage of the 80 conceptions itself. Then doing all these, and now also we have these 80 conceptions, only then afterwards they do not appear anymore.
Well, last Tanika that on board Navi Ranjang Katosum Sosum Segority, the Pechanal carries a charter zeaching to charter zeatangazo Mundo Yella Mundo in a calandras in a Zamando, Palamchin and Romandopa, till Dopa Meachiora, or Telestin to tell Luchin Chimbo Chondra Chem John Chon Sumsit, Shigloshi Chimbochit and John Ranchita, Chonwachik something on the Cotel Losum Sigandu. chapter
So now we are looking into the first group of these 33 conceptions that indicate the luminous appearance. And so there's a group of, the first three of those are called non-desire. And then there are three because there's a one which is of a lesser degree, one of a moderate, and one of a great degree, making three types of non-desire. And that's, just to give an example, it's like when we see some food and we don't have any wish whatsoever to have that food.
Ani chapter mari yelan rojang wazia chi yelan rojang wazia ta saulonga so chlo pa saulo ta da nalo se saulo ta ni ja or ta de pecha mombo na le de loksa changa jang mandu yelan rojang wani ta inal dang jang do ta wol ma yang ma chang na zhe zhe yo yo
ko sun di tanda tanka gap mi do
ndon dinol jam tu
we figured out earlier sometimes there's a bit of a difference in the numbering in the English and the Tibetan. Here the next two are not for some reason not numbered. Anyway, so the next two are mental going and mental coming. Ani di tanda kasa?
Samlo chlo pa ta na lo se ta yat.
So mental going refers to thinking about something outside, and then mental coming is something, contemplating inwards.
The mandrawa yong go ya kar rezit the gomol ju ku tsatsing na na yelan ro jang wa ta zini tsatsing na le le yong go re son sa tel ndeshi kya ta mandrawa re andu
so these come up in Nagarjuna's text, the 5 stages. So there's these
no til ndeshi kya ra mandra chong re ani nyangan ta hakore nga so symbol kangar chong dingar ran re dingar tel tatani chenra chong sum dingar chembo dingar chong sum.
And then the next 3 are sorrow, again that comes in 3 different levels: lesser, moderate, and great.
Ani sem jewazi tinga so gomrao gyaptandi sem lolo chini da nam toziti sem gopa sem tsupo shalol jingdeaga oni tokpa ranj gyandu ter gopa tokpa ter sare sem tsupo jepcha menjo tandi chiora o te jarjana tata sare te ni
adi dinyam
jewata chi gop nam tokta ni jewazi atanga so sem jepde te ran ra na sem jepde che gorizia te ran re nam tokziata sem tsupo que ne Tokyo ni nang toba chi yo lor ka nga so shedia sem chamota chi tsuponi o te yarndu te yakshorish.
And then again there are 2 of mental peace, say what we have sometimes during meditation when we feel very peaceful, and then conceptualization, which here refers to mental excitement.
Tani njikpa zia changa ran re tela chendra song so gyam dong so jena la yo ta le jia dru le jia tani jena la chi wa tele yang chendra chong sam sha ndu
so and then the next is fear. Again, it comes in different levels: lesser, moderate, and great fear.
Ani te sepa tre tela sam gyap do sepa ze de at nga so payu ta pama so le kacha ni lo pa chin do ti pama so le pa sem cha de ni chi yo o te la ore.
And then and then there's craving, again in 3 different forms: lesser, moderate, and great. And for example, when we have strong craving for one's own, homeland.
Ani lemba tanga so chala so yerni lemba do paten ro chi gerjana ndisari ketana abje lemba zeti ndo chashik chembo chi li garsa chi yori tenri ala chani na lemba tendel ndeshe loka chi gavyo so so chala so lengo ndri lengo sambagla samno chi ro te gamna ndisari
ani
chudumbat tanda tenri ala chani na lemba zya chi yori tendo charan li garo ndo chashik chirin ro chi ko so
tambo sepa dan en duchak
sepa ta ndewa gyapsar so ta lemba ro
duchak sepa lemba sepa tambo susu lungpa tenpa
te ndeshi gyapsa ma so gya chi girme
duchak di lapsa ini di separe
ten o cheta sepa ndeshi gyapsa ta ki lemba ta man ndeshi gyapta si
okay and then there's the English version also says desire and then grasping. Ani the lempaki kasa pe?
Kirdani chena lemba ziyat docha yenzini tat Jean Temdreala Chanino Lemba Ziachior. Temdreala Chanihako.
Yeah.
Or Tinung Lemba and Dochari, Yena, Camdel, Yilkund and Zambaz, the Naso Chalas Leag, Samlo, Teran, Yarjan, and Xarelai.
Okay, here, yeah, it. Well, we have grasping that comes up in the 12 links of dependent arising, if you have heard of that. So the grasping here is not meant to be in the same sense as in the 12 links of dependent arising, but it just means, getting hold of some objects.
Ani Magevazia children, Magevazia the Yaniza Randish, Gevala Yaniza Pena, Chancham Semgona Pendoch, Gevachini, Natsukia Chamala Japan, Ayon Sambatayon, Nijenda Ogomna Japan, Ayon Sambi Gevala Tetum Zai Samnorisha. And
then the next one is non-virtue. That's having, doubt in terms of, or with respect to, virtuous actions, thinking that, does it make sense to act virtuously, or does it make sense to develop loving kindness and compassion? Is it worthy, developing bodhicitta and so forth?
Tani Chipatar Combanitri, Chipa Combanitri Lari, Chipazena Calazando, Casamlo Telecogoris, Combazeti Chuna on Tondo Casamlo Tili Lauri.
Next ones are easy, hunger and thirst, when we want to eat and drink.
Ketan in the Pichat so that the Ponrupchin in some sound the Chapon Rawat on the Tati Jaj or Sunny Pa Union Georgia, and the Gemini is in the consumption of Choyoni Chictada, non Chuseat, Soso Dromji of Pochi Shinjo Grace, then many. So the Chictando Yosa Chochik, Jan in Georgia Jima, not you don't general the Apochato, Maris, the consent of Koyat and the Lab Chayano, Jirimboche, Son Retombo, Yache to command the Tarzini Tombopa, Lob John the Apochingo Namatama, Juchachi Lob China Yapo Chakaremato, Chit Kachik, Takachik Jan in Trona, Yapo Chakamaris or in the Sochik mine. Ombochi share on the tak and in the China sound not so sound to Monism to and our Tindi match, Yoto Channel, Saulo Tarochi.
Yes, so I mean, this is now sometimes it's a bit easy, but then we come again across paths, when we study that are quite tricky and or difficult. But then, as His Holiness always says, it's good to still keep on going and not leave something aside only because we think it's too difficult. And also, Master Tsongkhapa, he also said that, we should have a, broad, we should study widely, hear many different teachings, and even though something is difficult, we should still, do our best to study. Then we get a whole good idea and a good base, education, as it were, or a good understanding of things.
Adi tati all Johnny Rainier started some the Soratresha, Soratel, Sorashi Chimboch, that Giata Choncho, Sorasam Shandu.
Yeah, they
do Tanya Karina, Kosam the Madani, Korosora Corona, Shichimbon, Chonchosam.
And then there again, three feelings can be either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, and then in lesser, moderate, or what does it say? Great degree.
Then is Ripapota, Ripachepat, Ripi, Litersum last topazitita, so not so chepapotam, Chavatam, Chavi Yerla, Zambi topasam, Taranjan, and Chigundu.
And then there are three, the cognizer, cognizing, and that which is cognized. These three. These
separate. So topan Rikpada Murpakiopazi. So topazi the Shirab, so Yenda Maying Kapachini Patache to in the kitchen boro, and so now Shirab Mena, and Gonkondro Rakanga in a non-fiction roletere.
And then the next one is fine investigation, which basically refers to wisdom in so that's which investigate whether something is this way or that way, and without. That's we talked about this earlier on when we talked about the mind and awareness, and we talked about wisdom. And then the next one is a sense of shame. We also covered that in our earlier classes. That's when we don't care about what people think of us. Oh no, it's about caring about for one's own, it says.
So Jimson the Chini Gulan Zemiat.
One nevertheless engages in negative actions, thinking doesn't matter if I act that way.
Teni Nije Tan, Sewa Nitrit, Nije Sewa Nita, so Nabi Yonchira, Nije and Nije Ranri, Sewa Zenab Chambatri, Chambata Nije Nitre.
And then there's compassion and affectionate love.
Teni Tokpatan, Tokpazeti, so similar Tetum Rose at the Atre.
And then hesitation, which is something like doubt.
Sakpan Yopcha Dordo Pazita, Jesago Chalatas on the Hanga go Sambi Salodra.
And then accumulation, that's, the wish for gathering things, accumulating stuff.
Chaton Jangi Pensola Semchik Pazim Chatos, Tajamal Panjo Yapo, Narichi, Tenjitorola Simba, so Yapo Chati Magani Chatoche de Achiva.
And then jealousy, when we, don't like it if others do well.
Or that is some just something that's Sama Gila Yode Nichiringar Sound Corta Pachetis, Tajkishe, Sound Lotus on Asun Yamatapa. Yeah, isn't it the case that we all have these any of these 33 conceptions, they come up sooner or later in our daily life. And the cabin the some tranga jab the Nemanga solution to China, give up Sanyo Trinino initiation, the Givachatis, so Yamlin Checoya, Tanyo Tritanino, Yeshatan. Chemogoni ba pangoya tendikesha shigor ndigo samcha sosopse on the tendikesha choni omar gewa inke magewa inke tsogoya mogoya tsama nyamdem samcha sosop tranga jab jare te tendik tranga jab goya the karzit in the so samcha sosum the nyamdo launch yora jombi long the shiche chik pare zinikesha te sheyongor that in chakposhi uchi te chamro.
Earlier on when we talked about Lodek, the mind and mental factors, we had these, groups of virtuous actions that, are supposed to be practiced, and then these root non-virtues and, branch or, what's the other term? Let's say branch non-virtuous actions that we should avoid. So that was clearly distinguished. But here it's kind of like all sorts of positive and negative qualities of mental factors, as it were, come together. So it's different presentation here. Here it has to do with the types of wind that go along with these types of consciousnesses that form the mount of these consciousnesses.
Tanda sanga kanal kar chaparwazi shede oriz nga so samlo to long chinin jo de yoreze or long de tananjin samlo to de jonke nanjin long de kamba yon yo mungmen yo nanjin ji shipata mugyon yo kamba men yo tini chache ni tini yel chada mosam la so patsama yonjin jo na yonden ge chom jo na shiba yel cha leka che tand tini chi reze ni su te shede.
Yeah. So generally speaking, the wind, as mentioned before, wind is said to be like the mount or a rider onto which the wind is like a horse on which a rider rides, or the wind is like a person with strong legs but who is blind, and then the consciousness are like a person which can't walk but has good eyes.
Only not so Shipaganyam they give you loan the town, Konig and Javati opposition, you loan the Tsunza Yapochi Chetona, Shipat the Tsunza Cheto, is Kamba you and Yotin Zamjana, Muyona Kamba Meti Condro Togmara. What an is did Cheto long enough out to shade.
A long Yapo Hakona, then I
loan the Tsunza Cheshur. Tinipa loan, Chardang Shol loan the Matana, Shipat the Chardang Shol and Togmares. Long kan you na shiba to ajing rover.
Long kari hako gore.
Sonsa ni le long jeton hako go nduz ni teshe de ore nga.
Long hako go.
Teshe de ore. Long nam sak shuchi yore nga.
Ali sisa long sanga thola long hako go gore. Sang dilatene namshi hako go.
Dilatena long chunze cheto na namshi chunze che yore. Teshe de.
So in tantra in the tantric teachings, it's a lot about these winds and which come in all these different subtleties. And if one is able to know more in detail about these winds and understands how they operate and what they are like, then one will also get a better understanding of these types of consciousnesses which winds kind of indicate.
Katsanga Soshi and the Wokitili Gomni Gomja of Penja or Tenish. That's some lot of tea, Katakoron, the long, the Tinits and Corny, long Jamandali Jikuyo, long Jamandal, my duty, some lot of Toa Yapo, de degrees, or any long the Nala Cats in the Tomna, Teni, some lot of Terry Jogres, launch a locazina, some lot of 10 ounces of lodging Jogres, the suit shower. Akosari.
Ja, die Rikpatim.
Gom japte pena donganatsi Wokitili Gomni, Gom Japera. Gom Japte sound lot of 10 quote you long the thoughts in the young race or. Launch and the owner, launch a logical mara, launch Jicumena, Shiba and Chalondro Mares, as a sound of kind of Jundro Mara, launch and the only Quacamba Masons, Shiba Juxam, the Jikir Londo La Deoti, or Sutishi they were.
Yeah, okay. So, also Geshe Lharampa talked about this in the past. When we meditate, for example, there's one method where we kind of, where we meditate or kind of imagine a light between our eyebrows, and then if we concentrate on this spot, then the wind will be there too, because mind and consciousness go together. And when this is the case, so we'll be better able to concentrate, and so the mind will not get overly distracted.
Taketan Kasakini Lingina, that's how much Gomjatan, so much Kasandins and Rangamal She, and Basonza Kuzoha Koritande, not so don't work till a community, Gomjati, long some at the one day on race, long the one the new long woman on my live at Richon, some lot of knowledge, cats in the one Nojanga, and Ishibat so then it tembo shoes in it and the Tavrum Tatso Parum, Jenny. That's a Gomjan is Lea Yorela, Tomrum Jet.
How could you do
Tomrum Jacor Leung.
it?
Such a little chamela to Milon long, non chip and Nieto Wasser, let them Wasser part pa. Not so much and I Anthony Gomjan is Leung or the Panam Chin, Gomia Bojaptumna, long woman all tantum, the Kasakin at the Momboshes, your mare.
I wasn't there the other day. Anyway, but when we do this meditation and concentrate on this spot, then so the wind will be there, or the winds will be there, and the mind will be concentrated there and focused. And if someone is obviously, I guess, quite an advanced practitioner, then it will be possible for this dissolution process to have, or that will happen, where all these elements dissolve. One gets into these 80 conceptions, and then there are these different appearances, which were mentioned before, the luminous appearance, luminous radiance, and luminous immanence. So this will all happen, or the meditator will be aware of when this happens in good meditation.
Yani, Techi loves so. Matsutanda, Ninkar Matsama, Gum Yapochana, Machana, Gum Jab de Yora, Gum Javata, Malamga Kabl, Love John Chandu. Ma Nikundruti Tanga, Nikuson, Sanikatina, Saulotant, Parshi Soso Nikundru at the Sozo Haku reason. Parshi Tangi Malam Tansong, Malam Tanson, Sani Saulotant, Parshi Soso Malam Tango at the Soso Malam Nal Moncho race. Tingon Choson Ticablo, Tangi Malam Nal Gom Jabo, Sani Malam Nal Gom, the Chick Jamon, the Gom, Tandangazo Sepically Gom, Jachamombo Yara, Leongres. Carze Malam Tanka, so one she can go long Thomas and Duni Nal and that's at the one she. Samuel Picture Yoma. Picture me son sa Samuel Shalola Yankee go mombo chi capsati, Ticabla, Yamli Chinkel, Shu Yapo, or is it near Malam Namjorzini, Yamli Chedini, Hajamombo, Kyoso at it's so touching, Niti Conjomojo, Jenny Majan, Tanga, Nietrojita, Nikuson di Ta, Malam Tanson, or Tam Malam Town, the Tangi Gom Jagosa, the Richina Pershi Taran, Malam Nal Gom Japtoyati, Mombochi on Dendu.
Yeah, so other than sitting in formal meditation while we are, awake, then there's also the method of dream yoga, where people use these practices during their sleep. If someone is able to do that, they can fall asleep more consciously, and sort of similar, quite same processes happen during our sleep and when we dream, and people can be, aware or more aware of or remember their dreams better, and people can also be aware while they are dreaming, and then certain practitioners also then use that time when they're aware during a dream to actually meditate during this dream state, and it's said to be this form of meditation during dream is much more, powerful than being in the wake state, because during dream all the senses, other than the mind, although the senses are, ear, nose, sense, and all these, they're not operating. So that means there's far less distraction. So that's why when someone is able to, they can use that state when they're dreaming and conscious in it, and to meditate, which is much more powerful.
What songs anta ninkar nga tsonde di gom raw chi jana gom de yak po chi ma chona ya malam ngoshina tikabla ninkar so gom ja ta na ji ni gom chi ja ta ninka wi da mombo tembo yak po shi de to re o te lab de go
Ninka
tan nga so sepi kabla tan gom ja ra gom yak po cha ko maria zupo de na saulu ka ina sha shon ro ina yo malam de ngon choni ti na gom chi ja to na saulu tin ka ko jo mo jo show mari la ro long sa ma tsin da sa re zo ni ku yo de nga so ta te long na ja mo bo chi yo re ji ma chi ti so ra na nge chi show long der ton te wa ta ninka ta to so malam ta wi ka long ka an de yo ani sepi ka long ka an de yo ani ku ka long ka an de yo sa ma chi she yo re. I
might share a little bit more about this in other classes, about these winds where they abide in the body and whatnot. But but definitely it is the case when someone is able to and can meditate in the dream state. Then there's none of these distractions that we usually have. Where we sit and when we are awake, and we may sit in a meditation posture and think we're meditating, but there's a lot of distraction happening. But this doesn't usually happen, or it doesn't happen when someone is in a dream state.
Tanda nga so samcho sosam she de atigo muki nawa ta man song yo re ze gore ta nawa tanda samcho sosam go lon da shak pare si muki nawa te nawa tan chepa nirto sam go nani nawa go lon da rakshore tanda samcho sosam da jibcha tan dun go nani samcho sosam go lon rakshore then you lon jabo ye son sa chikuman tan song yo re zini shongo na la shia ta te shendu tanda nga so long rotan de shira haku me son za tinga so long len so ha jan ka porish.
Yeah, and for us, we are not very well aware about these things, so it's difficult to have to imagine how it all works. But on the whole, it is the case that these 33 conceptions that indicate these luminous appearance, that they are more on a coarser level, and these following ones are then more subtle.
Last tani o tanda ti samcho sosam di jantan di nal karze di tati roa ta wani so janjani tani ma jana kar jango ri ti sewa tal china chonsam jangdu sewa chimbo sewa jing sewa chonsam janjani you can roa ta wa ta ma jana yang samcho sosam ta ta chinga ni she de atri ha ko so di nal injinal ta jandu la so de kanal ngi di poi ti nal mandu.
There's another little difference in the text, but where is it now?
Sewa la sam roa ta wan mandu la so che ti nal injinal.
Sewa di timindu kasa doadang kasa doadang.
Roa ta wan ta majans sewa la sam jans.
Anyway, so in the English version reads, according to this method of counting the 33 conceptions in the nature of the first luminous appearance, mental going and mental coming are not counted because they are common to all. But there's there's something, there's probably a slight mistake in the Tibetan version, but the English seems correct.
Sewa la sam choni jam tu.
Where's it now? Sewa sumin chami do. Yeah. So the Tibetan doesn't. I mean, some of numbers are not correct. It seems, but the English is correct here. There, for mention is the affectionate love or love. There are 3 types, which is correct in the English, but not in the Tibetan, apparently.
No, anything. Trickery. Tangas from Chaktan Chakna Mandre Roa. Ta. No, so check some sauce on the shit sarita, Chepan so chill, Jupchatan, Shipa Jupchatan Bajarita, Shipa Jupchan on the jet horita, the Chepa Manson on the young, taking logically upon Rory.
This kind of And so anyway, so these the next group of these 40, there are 40 of these 80 conceptions indicating the luminous radiance. And again, a little bit difficult maybe at times.
Ta chakpa labdi chakpa ta jemba zendo chakpa zina karzeti soso matu ki chala tindil chakpa ki dia tal zengdu jemba zina karze soso yope chala chakpa ki dia teran jakandu te songa so monzeli la porwa.
Yeah, but so the first two are fairly easy. So the first one is desire. That's when we want something which we don't have. And adherence, the second one is something that we are attached towards, which we already have.
That so nabjinga so lumogoyari ta yitung tona sim gawa kiwala te chinra chosum zendu chi chalanda o ina te yakpochin ton ala te ni chi temonra o yakpochin ton ni sim gapo chawa chi gora te samlo teresha te chinra chosum chant te lila ta.
The other one is also fairly easy. The next one comes in 3 types. It's a mind of joy, of lesser, moderate, and great degree. When we find something attractive, beautiful, may be a thing, an object or a movie or whatever.
Ta rinwa zea ta raptam goa zea ngom sarwa zea chindu ta te so chikpa ndawo chire rinwa zeti so leka yakpo chindrawa te le jise yaran che atere ngoa zeti ten do pa shu tsam de ate ngom sarwa zeti ta chaze gore jamba chi as chani chala saban ro chin toni shu chi yahan sa and chi wa tere te samda.
Then the next 3 are rapture, ecstasy, and amazement. Re
te chabar doa rinwa zeti tanga so leka yakpo chindrawa la te le jise yaran che zea chi
So leka yakpo.
la mi jamba leka yakpo china so leka yakpo chindrawa te le jise yaran che zea yo nam ji yonra. So rapture is maybe they're fairly similar, but there's like differences. Rapture is to be understood in the sense of kind of like rejoicing, and either someone else did something well, or oneself did something good. Raison intéressante. Nipa raptum goa zeatra raptum goa sim goa doba khanchi gora.
Doba khan.
Doba khan tondan chin doba khan roa chi gora ti goa zeti. Gobo shuji chonson zea chi wa.
Ecstasy, Geshe explains to be in the sense of being content, satisfied.
That's satisfied very much.
And then amazement is when one has obtained something new, and then one is thrilled by it, as it were.
Teni gopat na janga so ma mombo rosari na so gomja bikable samlo solution droya te on do pa wongi do cha wongi solution dro and gomja garche so chire la
And then the next one is excitement, and we talked about this earlier on during the classes on the mental factors or doing meditation. That's supposed to be the greatest hindrance. That's when the mind gets distracted to an outwards attractive object of desire. We talked about this a lot. These 2 main hindrances in meditations, either lethargy and dullness, or excitement. Excitement is mentioned as something, when we are getting distracted towards something we desire, we wish for, and then lethargy or dullness is, when we get sluggish, as it were.
Samba na yerte ngomber topa was in the town, ngom zeata, drinking ngom zeata, current charco, tangom ze. Tachita Tachipandres in Dopa Kachiri ngom zena karze. Dixon Chikarmason, Tokita Shire, and that's a poke on ngom sons at the Shazayor. Not in the cheese, Tenedochiri.
And the next one is satisfaction. Yes, I was wondering how to explain that, but it's just being content with what one has or got.
Tenin chapata watch and Japazia, so Tanamji Mitson Tamchiata Kaki Aziano, Tatin, Namanaziano, Tazo Tonda Izaro.
And then the next ones are embracing, kissing, and sucking.
Tamban Jim Manjaro, the Tambas is the same thing water. The same as on the same thing water catching water, Lapsanchi, Jendro, and Landro, and Rotinime, same thing Bochigoro.
And then comes stability, where we have a stable, firm mind and not waver
Tsomba na gewala tsomba tsunji rang insare.
Diligence is the next one, which is making effort.
Ngargel na ngargel rang rang mga tsundro tsayimba.
And then comes pride, and we talked about this earlier on as well.
Cha will start cha zopa ta leka chi tsar son sam gut samlon ro chi sar wonde te jen ha komaso. Ta cha wan tsar son sam bi leka tinge che tsa ye sam bi samlo chi le ja gore.
And then the next one is called activity, that apparently refers to the thought of, I have done something, I've completed something, an action.
Chokpa no non chokpa ndo pas tom na jen ki ponchom bar do pas en chokpa ziti ta chakpa jam do kuma jam do samlo dra.
And then stealing is the wish to take something away.
Stop ziatish so nipa chembo che jamba nipa chonchon so ma zirki non bi samlo chi ora watesha.
And then power is the wish to basically overpower someone else.
Gewa stoa na gewil kombache pazidita gewa la kombache patita ndikindo.
Yeah.
Gewa la komba.
Then enthusiasm is becoming familiar with virtue.
Ani lanchi ke pazia chindu de ngarger ka wangi magewi cholal joba mar mombon magewi cha mombo chendo patel chenro chonsum jantu.
And then the next one is foolhardiness, and that is a sense of being proud of oneself, and again comes in 3 degrees: lesser, moderate, and great.
Chakpa ne geme per tambar na la stondo posita chakpa ziti soso shishu yinai soso nipa mena pena ngandri ni consent chol sopa jab go sam sam rachingi consent chol to chipando yinna chki o tin chilla sopa jam na laki mara nipa mena yang al consent chol karte cha nipa yo mara ina ni karte cha go don shion ro chani zeinda.
Then comes vehemence, where apparently, one believes that although one doesn't have any abilities, but one thinks that one can kind of keep up or, compete with someone who has much greater qualities than oneself, such as His Holiness, Geshe says.
Garpan yet on Tommy, seven dopas, Ketan Garpaziat, Zung Kunyam Rochirete, Tanyam Tenichin Tony, Taylor, Capochia, Soundlochirisha.
And then flirtation, which apparently refers to seeing something, something as attractive or beautiful.
Oh, Tani, Genji Pan Conzering, what's the Mangatson Roson, Jambachi, so wandering at the Yerimbo, 7 yard yet.
Then comes animosity, which is a sense of resentment. Virtue is just the wish to do something positive, good actions.
Tandani ma sabore tsixarwaziachindo no sabochi shego sambatri dembazi ajindo no kyaz shemanye sambatri mabdembazi kyaz shego sambatri te samdalilada.
And then come the 3 verbal clarity, truth, and untruth. It's the first one. Verbal clarity is that the wish wanting to say something clearly, and then truth, wishing to say that which is correct, and untruth is that the wish saying something untruthful.
Ta nipazia chindu nipazia nga so yela tembo njeatri samlo na nga so tonda karina jem chini yela tembo miachi o otir nipazia
Sem tempo
cha yetam zeta nga so na chung lachi chingi yetam resiti so sem lat tembo shujal yetam tenze gore otir no sem tembo njamiatri
Okay, so here certainty it says it just refers to keeping one's mind stable. Here in the English it says fully trusting in the meditational deity. Yidam is the Tibetan word, but it doesn't necessarily mean deity practice. It just means having a stable mind.
Nyar malemba lilata nga so te lendo me pas so lendo pa menjo chalata so tachi nielenzi ti lendo yo panji ta nyar malenzi ti lendo me pas lendo me pa.
Then comes non-grasping, which is not a wish to take, or the wish not to take something.
Jimba pon do parton do pate rakota jimba positi tanda jimba tando que sembari jim tara tondo ran jimba ran jimba ziti at samlo le jakori na ki aso nachun jimba ziti ngaso kake gishina jimba ziti chalak chayatel jimba lagra mil chala nachun na sena jimba ngoni te kari zina stendo samlo tel jimba lagre zevore ote jimba ran re.
So giver is the next one here, and it's often referred to, also when we speak about generosity in Buddhism, it's a mental attitude. It's not, it doesn't necessarily mean to literally give something, but it mainly refers to the wish of giving something away.
Lelo chakarando pasitita, pashol chuya pomache, lobjoya pomache, totol chuya poche gore, lobjoya poche goreana, lekandol kalnan, lekaya pomachin, lekaya poche gores, and Tanji Kando Kasamlo Tella, Kolvala Undu.
And then the next one is exhortation. That's when one wishes to encourage someone else to, do study well, to do a proper job, and so forth.
Pau nyomo sortir dali number jarando pasitanga so pau hero siasurate dali jarando pisamlot range dali javazina hakoda
mi shemba
dauli so yarkato gondu sam pisamlot.
And then bravery is the thought, to be stronger or better or victorious over one's enemy. But here the nyomong siguro.
The kati the nyomong jali jawas the chetan kawal janan rikiri.
So it can mean any whatsoever. Though the text mentions that it refers to the afflictions.
Teni ngosame patri ngosame pangema mombon rosara ta so le karichona machona kyoba marapche deatri.
And then again, something we talked about earlier a lot was shame or shamelessness, where we don't really care to engage in negative actions. We don't care, or we don't mind what others may think of us. And then pretense is deceiving others. Malice refers to wrong views or bad views, negative views.
Dupotando que samlo trita, Jupashi go to Chevitz go to Mendagia go to Sambalas Jala, no pachendo que samlo.
And then brutality is the next one, which is the thought, the intention to harm others in any way by beating them or shooting them or whatever.
Same trambo mechevat.
And then the last one, the 40s, is trickery, which is just being untrue, dishonest.
Tati in Chepi Ranjing Topa Jichiatri, Tati Ring the Dratin as in your toy, Chates and Chapoya Chakare Samsung in the Sheguina, Maguina, the Jani Drojana, Mandrin Joe, Sonsa Shejain, Tes in your toy chayo, Natures Onda.
I'm sorry, so if this class was a bit boring, and I was wondering if I should cover this all or not. But then I decided it's not good not to talk about it at all. So I went through these points.
Chepat and Songi or is over in Atanga, and Rochilina, Logion or the Che or Tanda, the Jipchatuman and Chepang Alan Suntogus and Sawanin in Suntomundu, Sunto City, the Jachatahaco Latini Jambat Hako Corita, Hako Tomundu, and Chaborizea, Nenga Fute, Yamato Jamband, some lotus and Chabo Marinazol in Tapa Yodia.
Yeah, as mentioned before, all these, these points, these conceptual thoughts that we just went through, then they themselves are not very difficult to understand because we all have them at some point or another. But so what is difficult to understand is how they Kandes so how, for example, these 40 conceptions, how they indicate these luminous radiance, or this luminous radiance, how that works. It even for myself, who have studied quite a bit before, even for me, this is difficult to understand how that works. And again, also as mentioned earlier, these disillusions that either they happen at death or even or in meditation, this happens, but how it actually works is even difficult for me to understand.
Kichanin Sontang Zedia the Carla or is the Penapuki Rangoni Tawayon de Dona, Tawatanga Sonton, Otigal Mayores and the Lams Hakotogra, Tenajangoni Nangason the Egyptian She on the Lamsan or Chepaziat and the Dichios and the Hakotogo and the Chior, the Tekotom and some total Narolan Sontomas on the thing.
So when we see smoke on a mountain, for example, we can easily say or infer, there must be fire, right? Because there's smoke. So the smoke is indicating the fire. We can easily understand that. But it's not like this with these, say, 40 conceptions that we just last covered. We can't say that, by seeing or understanding these 40 conceptions, then we can, understand this luminous radiance. It's not like this.
Otenit Nenga so long get on the and the launch Arakanam shot the Yapo Mashivi, so Matawa Nengotel to do your sari. A gum to Soyapo, Jamni Gedeng Gomjati on a Parshu launch out to Soyapo Cabercheshiat and Jungos, launch out to Soyapo Cabercheshiona, and it will walk stop a gypsy to get now at an chepat so long or chain at the young US and so Gomgani Pagmandan Sonsa. Shiraji Gotsego Mari, the Ninsari.
Gomyapuyola, then Lunkani
Long Giovati Aposhi.
So, as say generally speaking, we are not that advanced in our meditation practice. So, but if someone is more advanced in their meditation practice, they will be also more aware of all these winds in the body and so forth. And if that's the case, if one is more aware of these winds and their different subtleties, then one will be better able to, or more able to understand also these these appearances or luminous appearance and radiance and so forth.
Long Cheva Sayu Long Naziachi, Tenishendo, Long Corsion, the Ninkala Yopi, Sons and Yulon the Achishendo, Anistewala Yopi, Capture Yulon the Achishendo, Capture Mari, Yamnicolon, Drambala Yopi, Kegolon, Sani Leopi, Tercer Yulon. Ligas Chashi Tamcha Layopi, Capture Colons in Italy, Lorna Shegandu, get on Nakanal.
Okay, so there in the tantric teachings, there are supposed or said to be 5 different types of winds in the body. There's one at the throat chakra, then at the heart chakra, at the navel, and at the secret place, and then also one wind that pervades the whole body. And I mean, I don't know all these different names. I can look them up. But the wind at the heart is the Sokzinlung, the life-bearing wind.
Also, Lapat on the Guinea took the Sotama Gitia, the took the Sogan, the capture colons at your Sonzini Lapat on Gitoja, your reason to capture colons at the Nani Giko Marco, took the Zupo Sama, Juni, loan the Zupo Gitoja, reason national tension.
Could be pervading, but I checked the names of these winds. So that type of wind that is pervading throughout the body, that makes the us move, the hands move, and the body move.
Tani long nakon only Javata carriers in a stevala yopi, Yamni Kulons yaching to ten disholi jagan to Magnisholi Yongomandonga, so now Yamshita, Nashini Mato. Nanikani long yapo mayon chitil tap shachi on chitil yapo. It's so chick tata jagandu. The Ninipa, Kegolonzeate, Gishoni Leongu, Tati, sometimes Jepolo, Katina Mari.
Ale.
Tevala Yopi the Tam Sepachu ni some Tasolan Dishoni.
Ale.
Ani Jenga Triglan Dishoni, then Ge Gulan Dishoni, Tenichini, Cocheti Tata Yongu. Teni, Tijini, Kegolonzeat and Dishoni, Chasochi Tata Yon. Ani San the tercer Gulon, the Nakonika ni Shikchembo, Chasochiliku. Tiji le Sonzen Gulon, the Nakonichani, Lolo, Chinigini, Chichini, Tinity, Yamja Cheon, Nakon, Tata Long Dual, Drixing do Mato, Conjumunja Gemdu.
Yeah, Nitana Disco Thompson. I'm getting a little bit confused which wind. Anyway, so there's this wind that
Dil launch yora.
yeah, at the navel that
Ta
make-
nga so dawa shartong ko dawa yu ku tsepa chi yo.
yeah.
Tsepa chi ku joki chito nga pan ri chi li ngo tsu na di no ni chito chi li ge yor.
On the first day of the lunar calendar, for example, then this wind kind of moves through the body, and then we can breathe very freely through our left nostril.
Tani chito chi ke ji le Njambala yopi kege lonze ya de jongre ni dino ni shi chembo jini ni no mo di joti na sa ando chang dino ni shi chembo jini ta chiso shi ta ta ju
And it's Tibetan, but
joking amo ni ma chi le tsini ro
so
chite
that's
chik
that's these.
chite nga bal dino jina chik bal dino ji ngor
Oh, that seems to shift on an hourly basis. So for an hour, say we can breathe because of this wind at the navel. We can breathe freely through the left nostril, and then it changes later in the morning, and then it's the wind at the throat chakra, which makes us then be able to breathe freely through the right nostril. There's always a difference if you notice.
ani damban de chi le din na ko ni ka no ni da nga chizon de zok pe tse dumba marta tse chi bo tse chi ron la na chizo damban de chi le na ko ni ka ni shi chembo ki gepan de ni na ko ni cha ni shi chon chon ki yo gapal ndi ka ni ki chabal de ni ki cha chi le shi chembo ki choni le shi chon chon ki tanji pon che ni nyama chi le long gewa ni chi ton chi gya tam ba ge yo na ko
So nima
takpa la chizo ni stav janal ta ko kora chizo ni stav janal kora jagura kora jaondi na goni ni chi ton chi gagere zeni na chi na ni shen
Nikia
ni chi
Niti
chi ton chi gya
Tikton
chi gya
Tukya. So it seems to shift on an hourly basis. So first it's, we can breathe through one wind, we breathe through the left nostril, and then it changes. And then we breathe freely through the right nostril. And then again, Kasa Nika.
Nika jawa tercer ki londa sonzen ki lon nika nyam de jagre na shi che chong yor.
Sangwe.
Sani go tercer ki lon ze. Nyanga go sonzen ki lon
Nika. Then there's the wind at the secret place and at the navel, which make us being able to equally breathe freely through both nostrils. And so it changes in a 24-hour, every day on a 24-hour basis. And then, but generally speaking, that's a teng nimatikla teng.
Chizonye stavjela yichich tontya.
Teng utya. Any. Nika.
Nika chiksegra.
So, and then every day, within 24 hours, we breathe around 21,600 times. So in and out is count as one. We breathe about 900 times apparently in 1 hour.
Tanda nabgin zamuling tsirk pat so kanji shege yo rezite ki chanin ramandan to chite chigla gupya trikchen rawo tndi shendu laps
while the scientists say apparently we breathe about 900
gupya trikche tepa shege
tukya
gupya trikche
960 times a day. And I was checking in with Ani Lamdran the other day and about what the scientists say.
Ti yarmar rawo chiglam du mung ta chik ta chik. Yeah, but that's a rough estimate. I mean, we're all different, right? We have different breathing patterns. So in the Buddhist teachings, it's then referring to, like a young person, not someone terribly old, for example. Teshia the current drone to songs the national national long course huge shioreta, not so not gigging kerashimo so loans at Pekali Kapondus, in out of Rotanshina Penton, Chimbo, your series in Tennisum, the thing is Zertam Juay, the Nitis was also as a jagged.
You can listen it on. So.
No, Genorzan,
So there's Genorzan, a teacher in Gyuto Monastery. He used to say that, knowing about these winds is extremely important, and that's why I wanted to share a few things about this.
Teri tagazanga so pasha jake chi shia yema to saman go sa de chi omar.
It's hard for us all to understand it all, but I explained it to, for our imprints, for imprints, in good imprints in our mind stream.
Teni te sa ta longo na ja to hindu chulig na ta na chuni ka ha chan ja po yo re zing ngi hindu chulig ta ma nyor te so gi yon chi ta ta kan ri rendu un ja po yo re zing.
It's said that, it's, these whole presentation with these winds and channels and the drops is very similar to what we find in the Hindu teachings, apparently. But I haven't studied them, but you could investigate for yourself similarities.
Asa teni ja ge tu ta tri.
Okay, then we leave it here for today.
A kyo so teri